If you want to be a truly great fractional CMO, there's one mindset you've got to get behind, and that is radical responsibility. When you're the head of marketing, even in a fractional role, you're owning it all. So the launches that crush it, the ones that flop, the mistakes, the missed post, the wins, all of it. And here's the kicker. Even when it's not technically your fault, it's still your responsibility as the marketing leader because you're the one leading the team. And leadership doesn't mean much if it only shows up when things are smooth sailing. This idea really clicked for me when I saw a post from my friend Susie the other day, and she wrote, "The hardest part about being a marketer is that marketing always gets the blame until the results roll in. Then suddenly it was someone else's genius idea." So if you're a marketer, you've probably felt that before, right? That line hit me because it's so true. And it inspired today's episode of CMO School. We're talking about what radical responsibility actually looks like when you're in a fractional CMO role, how to carry it without burning out, and how to lead when the pressure's high. And then also why owning the wins is just as important as owning the losses. So let's dive in. The strongest marketing leaders I know take radical responsibility for every result. Good. If you're stepping into a CMO role or marketing leadership role, fractional or not, you're not just a contractor. You're the head of marketing. So that means when something gets launched or doesn't, when something works or doesn't, or what gets prioritized or overlooked is on you. So that doesn't mean that you personally wrote the copy or ran the ads or scheduled the emails, but you're owning the outcomes for all of that work that's getting done. Radical responsibility means that you're not blaming the copywriter or the VA or the agency when something flops. You're really taking ownership over the work and asking yourself, okay, did I set the right priorities? Did I give clear direction? Did I check in on progress? Did I flag risk early enough? You're really owning what could you have done better in this situation to set your team or the agencies that are working for you up for success? I'll give you a real world example that happened to me last year. There was a big client launch that we were doing. And if you've ever been a part of a launch, you know how many moving pieces there are. Our social team we didn't realize until almost 5 p.m. PST. And we had to scramble and create it on our own. I had to rally my team and figure out, who on our side can just create this because it has to go out. And a big lesson learned there was that our team was in a transition phase where responsibilities were being finalized and we had a new social team. We had lots of moving parts and we really weren't taking the time to slow down and make sure everybody was really clear on the details. So that was a big lesson that we as a team learned and got better from as we went. Really stepping in to that and taking ownership, it was powerful. I could have said, the social team, it was all in the launch brief. These details were here. How could they miss it? Placed blame, but that would not help us for the rest of the launch going forward. And it's really not coming from a place of partnership and accountability. So that is what leadership really looks like. But I think there's something that we often forget. This can feel like a lot of pressure to feel like everything's on your shoulders as a leader. And I want to talk about how to manage that pressure so it actually doesn't feel heavy. It can actually feel great and it can feel empowering. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can be handling that pressure. Number one, give yourself permission to make mistakes. We are human. And this fractional CMO role or a marketing leadership role is not about being perfect. It's about accountability. It's about being present and being a real human for your team and for your clients. You're going to mess things up. So own and learn from it and move on. I think the best lessons really come from when we can really look at our part in something and ask, what can I learn here? How can I do better next time? Number two is getting clear on what is and isn't in your control. So you can't control how the audience responds to an offer. You can't control how fast the CEO replies to something. Considering all of the things you know and thinking about, okay, what is in my control? For example, if you have a CEO who you know takes time or goes back and forth on things, build in some buffer time for your team. Start to, again, learn from those mistakes and anticipate the things that you can control, even if there's something sort of frustrating that feels out of your control. And just try to ask yourself if something's feeling stressful or swirly or, is this in my control? What part of this can I control? Because when we focus our energy on things that are completely out of our control, it's just an energy leak and there's no point spending our time there. Another thing that is super important is learning to anchor your nervous system. So When you are leading a marketing team, you really are the barometer for the vibe on the team and how the pace at which people are working and the energy. And so when shit hits the fan, your calm becomes the team's calm. So if you can train yourself to do some nervous system work and be that person or that presence that is calm under pressure, whether that's breath work, a walk, music, box breathing before a tough call, really learning to regulate yourself so that you can lead from your executive brain and not your anxious one, that is going to go a long way. It really will help you show up as a leader and a problem solver and be able to help your team walk through those moments where something may have gone wrong and you all need to band together and creatively problem solve. And then the last point here is lead by modeling steadiness under pressure. So clients don't just hire you for strategy, they're hiring you for your energy, your clarity, your ability to hold the chaos. So similar to the previous point about anchoring your nervous system, it's so important how you show up in these moments to your team in front of your clients. And I think it can go a long way when you can really step in and say, look, I think here's the solve, here's what went wrong, here's where we can do better next time, and really be that human, calm energy and show that the pressure is just something that is part of your job and it's not going to derail you or knock you off your game. Not to say that you need to pretend like you're completely fine, but it's really just that modeling of, we've got this. And if you can appear confident and calm and really stand in that for your team and your clients, they'll feel that. And that really, really goes a long way in your client feeling confident in you and your team feeling like you've got this and you can kind of come back from these mistakes. When you stop seeing pressure, like this radical responsibility can feel like, oh my God, this is so much. And I don't know that I want everything to be on me. But when you stop seeing it as something to avoid and seeing it as part of the job or an opportunity, it stops being scary or heavy. It's actually a really great opportunity to inspire others and teach others, especially younger team members or people who are less experienced than you, and show them we're human and mistakes are totally fine, or flops or things that go wrong in marketing. And it's okay that happens. And here's how best to handle it. And here's how to not make it mean something about you, because it doesn't. It's just work. You're a bad marketer. So if you can start to see this as an opportunity to strengthen your leadership and strengthen how you show up, it will shift from feeling heavy to something that is actually a really exciting opportunity. So one thing that I think gets overlooked is that taking responsibility means standing tall when things go right as well. I have so many conversations with marketers who will brush off an amazing launch or great results and chalk it up to external factors, but then they're the first to step in and can blame themselves or blame the team or the strategy when things don't go right. My take on it is if you're going to take full responsibility when things go wrong, you also need to own the wins fully when things go right. So I think marketers and certainly women sometimes are conditioned to downplay success because that's just ingrained sometimes. It's a little bit of don't look at me. But if you're leading the strategy, driving the priorities, guiding the team, and you're prepared to step in and own things when things go not to plan, then I want to see you do that when it goes to plan because you're the reason it worked. Even though, again, you might not have been writing the posts, sending the emails, creating the landing page, but you were the driving force behind all of that. So I don't want to see you brush off, let's say, a $200,000 launch as just a great offer, or the team really crushed it, or the market's doing really well right now. You want to be recognizing your role as the marketing leader in orchestrating that whole team and that whole effort. Because owning wins is not arrogance, it's confidence. And if you're going to hold the weight of failure or losses, you deserve to stand in the light of success too. I see this all the time in Fractional CMO School when I'm talking to my students where they'll say, this client hit record sales. And when I ask what they did, it turns out they may have rewrote the offer, they mapped the entire campaign, they coached the team through a launch, they advised on timing of certain pieces, but they still hesitate to take the credit. And I just want you to think about that next time when something goes really, really well for a client, for you and your marketing role. Where can you stop and celebrate yourself and take some credit for your role in that win? So The mindset of full ownership is what makes you a true leader. And I think that this stands whether or not you're a fractional CMO or you're in an executionary position on the marketing team. You can show up with this leadership mindset no matter what your role. I want to talk about what radical responsibility looks like in practice. So when something goes wrong in a launch, a campaign, a team, etc., your job is not just to spot it, it's actually to solve it and stay calm and work with your team and coach them through that. I'll give you a couple of examples here. Let's say the designer that you're working with or the agency drops the ball and doesn't deliver assets on time. So what can you do? You can adjust the timeline, communicate the pivot to your team, or reprioritize so that your campaign can still go live. It's really about thinking outside the box around, okay, this one thing we expected to happen hasn't happened. And how can we think really creatively? And often what helps me in these situations is I pull way back and I say, okay, what is our goal here? At the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve? We thought we were going to get there by this one path over here, and that just fell away from us. So what are the other creative ways that we can get there? What am I seeing in front of me? How can I problem solve? Another example might be maybe the founder wants to shift messaging mid-launch. So what we can do here is be assessing the impact, making the call whether or not we think that's a great idea, and then communicating trade-offs to the founder with clarity, staying calm. And also, if you end up having to make a big pivot like that, being this presence for your team where you're not coming in and saying, oh my God, we have to make all these changes. And yeah, oh my God, the founder, they always change their mind last minute. How do we step into leadership and say, you know what, this is how we're going to handle this as a team. And I know that we can do this. And here are all the ways we're going to attack this problem that's right in front of us. And so often in that kind of a scenario, that happened to me a lot when I was in corporate, where there was so much overhead management, and they would often have these asks that would have a ripple effect that they just didn't really have awareness over because they were sitting so high up here. So I would have to come to my teams and say, okay, I know this really sucks and this is what we need to do, but here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to make it not suck. Here's what we're going to do as far as shortcuts or rework or how we're going to approach it differently. So a lot of this role and taking radical responsibility really means being the calm in the storm or being the creative problem solver when a plan won't work and someone is stuck. So when someone is coming to you on your team, an agency, a contractor, someone on the actual team, our job as leaders is to stay calm, pull way back and say, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? What is this bigger goal? And what are all of the different routes we can consider? How do we get super creative on the different paths to get us to our goal? And if we're focused on what's important and really flexible in how we get there, then you'll find we'll go from having spirals or this energetic frenzy to actually feeling like in a place of empowerment and excitement, and the team will feel that from you. So when you carry yourself like that, as the steady hand, like clear voice, the person who has this calm confidence that they will figure it out no matter what, your clients and your team will trust you at a whole new level. Just a few takeaways. You do not need to be perfect, but you do need to be accountable. So radical responsibility means you lead from a place of ownership, not blame or ego. You take the hit when something fails and the credit when it works. You stand in both with the same energy, steady, strategic, and focused on outcomes. If that's the kind of leader you want to be, but you're struggling for the frameworks, the support, or the confidence to really step into that role, that's exactly what I teach inside Fractional CMO School. So if you're building a fractional CMO business and you don't want to waste years figuring it out the hard way, Fractional CMO School is open for enrollment, and we'll give you the step-by-step roadmap that I used to build my business to 6 figures in 6 months and then $1 million per year with a small team of 2. There's expert coaching, one-on-one support, and whether you are an aspiring fractional CMO or you're growing, you're trying to figure out how to scale your team or do the role in a way that doesn't lead to burnout, it is a great fit for you. And you can learn more at thecmooffice.com. If you love this episode today, here is what I would love from you. Take 30 seconds to rate and review the show. It helps more marketers and CMOs find this content. Hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're going to implement any of this or you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out in my DMs on Instagram. I would love to support you. And thank you for listening. I will see you next week.